Coming up on Midco Sports tonight, it's a Summit League breakdown. The basketball season is going to be here before we know it, and Brad Newitt and I tell you the storylines you can look forward to. Then it's high school pick'ems. Jody Jandy and I tell you who we think is going home with the dub this weekend. And finally, Augie Coach Talk with Carlo Metz and football's Jerry Oshevsky. All of that plus much more, Midco Sports Tonight kicks off right now.
Hello and happy Thursday, everyone. I'm Kelly Stewart, and this is Midco Sports Tonight. Well, as exciting as midseason football is, the basketball season is getting closer and closer. We had the Summit League preseason polls come out last week. This week it was the league teleconference with all 16 head coaches. So to chat a little more about these exciting times ahead, we bring in one of our Summit League experts and overall basketball guru, Brad Newitt. So before we get into this chit chat, let's take a look at the polls. Starting with the men's, South Dakota State picked first, followed closely by South Dakota, SDSU, Fort Wayne, Denver, Omaha, Oral Roberts, and Western Illinois at the bottom. Taking a look at the women's, again, the Jackrabbits on top, then Western Illinois, last year's regular and tournament champs, and then South Dakota, Oral Roberts, Omaha, North Dakota State, Denver, and Fort Wayne. So you see the polls, South Dakota State on top on both of them, but what do you take out of those?
Well, I think first of all, you always look at, who's at the top. That's the first place everyone looks. And on the men's side, I thought, two teams in South Dakota and South Dakota State that have star players returning. Mike Dahm for South Dakota State, Matt Mooney for South Dakota, and also two teams that were playing great basketball at the end of the year. So to me, not a surprise to see those two at the top and very distinctively at the top. On the women's side, though, I think it's a little bit more of a mixed bag. I mean, Western Illinois, you mentioned, great regular season, won the tournament last year. They've got everybody back, but there were key injuries on the women's side last year. Macy Miller didn't play for South Dakota State. She's back for University of South Dakota. Jasmine Trimboli, Caitlin Duffy missed all last year. They're back. So a lot of different pieces now. That women's side is going to be very interesting.
Well, we had the teleconference yesterday, and I feel like it's the same thing every year. People come on, oh, we're so excited. We're 6 days in. Our team's looking good. Can't wait to play. So, everyone's holding their cards pretty close to their vest, but J.D. Gravina had this to say about his team.
I really feel like we have a better basketball team than we had last year. That being said, last year every single thing went our way. So the results necessarily I don't think will come as easy, but I'm really excited to see what this team can accomplish.
Well, confident, but rightfully so. Regular season champs and tournament champs. So what do you make of him saying that in the teleconference?
I think he's trying to give his team some confidence going in and knowing that they have some swagger, and they should. They have everybody back. They have Emily Clemens, who was the player of the year last year, had a fantastic breakout year offensively. Their whole team did. They were just impossible for people to stop, and so I personally would have picked them first just because they have everyone back, and there are question marks, I think, with South Dakota State and USD with injuries and how do those players come back. I like that as a coach to show that he has got confidence in his group.
Well, moving on to the men's side, some young teams, some old teams, but looking specifically at SDSU, the top team, 4 seniors and 5 juniors, all of them are going to play. And then USD, Hurst and Sparks, the only seniors that have really played, but then you got Mooney, Birch Manning, Hagedorn, and Dan Jack, all as juniors. So unique matchups, but looking at how teams are going to play, TJ Otzelberger had this to say about his team.
That takes away some of our opponent's ability to game prep, to not guard certain guys, to double or triple Mike Dahm and do things because everything's happening so quickly it's tough to react. So our goal would be, our objective, we're trying to be a great half-court defensive team that allows us to play a little bit more in transition.
And a huge reason he wants to play in transition is because they have the new point guard in Brandon Key. So with him saying something like that and really getting up and going, but still remembering the defensive aspect, what do you take out of that quote?
Well, first of all, Brandon Key is going to be a key player for them. Junior college point guard that they brought in. That was a piece that was very much missing in South Dakota State's game last year. They didn't have a good point guard that could really get them going up and down the floor. I think they're hoping to be able to do that. And then that lets Mike Dahm maybe play in a little bit more space. I think as this game becomes more of a half-court game for South Dakota State, it gets more difficult for a star player like Mike Dahm to really get going offensively.
And he, talking to Coach Otzelberger and listening to him in the teleconference, he said Dahm in the offseason has worked on being more versatile, his conditioning, getting up and down the court, which isn't always easy for a big guy. So It'll be exciting to see how things play out. Well, I wish we could talk for the whole show on this, but unfortunately we have to go. So thank you so much, Brad.
You betcha.
We look forward to this in the future. All right, when we come back, it's that time of the week. High school pick'ems for North Dakota are coming your way. And after that, Jody, Jandy, and I tell you who we think will take home a W this weekend in South Dakota. You're watching Midco Sports Tonight.